Hello and welcome to class 33. This is Extreme Sports.
I'm David and I did slapping. Slapping is mainly played in Russia. It involves two opponents standing across from each other and delivering a slap one at a time. The winner is decided when the opponent is knocked out or gives up. There is no gear, so you just come there and just slap, basically. Slapping is a competitive sport. So the rules are you walk up to the white table, you stand across from your opponent and slap his face. Then if he so chooses to return fire, you take a slap in the face. It goes until someone is knocked out or gives up.
Gigi and I did parasailing a boat while attached to a specially designed canopy wing known as a parasail wing. The harness attaches the person to the parasail, which is connected to the boat or land vehicle by the tow rope. The vehicle drives off, carrying the parasender or wing and person into the air, and up to 3 people can parasail behind it.
Hi, my name is Raymond, and I'm going to be teaching waterfall kayaking. So the first slide is about the waterfall. So it's basically an area from a river or a stream, and then there's like water dropping down. And yeah, next slide. Oh wait, can you go back one slide? I think someone messed with the slides. Okay, so a kayak is a small, narrow watercraft, which is typically propelled by means of a double-bladed paddle. So in the bottom of the screen are people riding kayaks. So basically waterfall kayaking is like where you ride a kayak over a waterfall.
Popularized in the 1960s in America, skateboarding is a sport by performing tricks on a skateboard. This can be also used as a form of transportation. Although skateboarding is stated as an extreme sport, there is a low percentage of major injuries and or incidences. The general safety gear is helmet, shoulder pads, elbow pads, and proper footwear, something like sports shoes. Around the 1970s, skateboards were created for the use of skateboarding. Starting from 2020, skateboarding has been added to the Summer Olympics.
Zorbing is the act of rolling inside a giant inflatable ball, which is typically transparent. It is also known as globe riding, spheering, and orbing. Zorbing can be played in both indoors and outdoors. This sport was first played in 1994 in New Zealand, and the first zorbing site was established by Zorb Limited, also in New Zealand. Zorb Limited is currently the most used and famous zorbing company as of now. There are different types of zorbing activities. Rolling zorbing is the act of rolling down the hill inside the inflatable ball. Water zorbing is the act of zorbing in water. There are also many different other activities that you can create by yourself just by being creative.
Hi, I'm Linda, and I'll be talking about cliff diving. Cliff diving involves highly trained athletes diving into the water from a very high rocky cliff. Dives from up to 90 feet high with multiple twists and somersaults prove these athletes have fearless spirits and outstanding athleticism. They have learned the acrobatic skills that allow them to take part in this challenging activity without severely injuring themselves. History. The roots of cliff diving can be traced back to the 18th century. King Maui forced his warriors to leap feet first off a cliff to land in the water below. It was a way for those men to show their king that they were fearless, loyal, and bold. Cliff diving evolved into a competition in which participants were judged for style, with an emphasis placed on making as small of a splash as possible when they enter the water.
Parkour. So parkour is also known as PK for short. It's basically an activity where people aim to move from place to place in a complex environment the fastest. Focuses on obstacle passing and is usually in urban areas, but it can be in anywhere like cities, buildings between. So it was first established by David Bell in France in 1988. And it's a really common thing for video games. And even though it's super popular, it's in fact not an Olympic sport. So a few basic roles. So the role is basically landing a roll when you're jumping from a high place to prevent you to like break your leg, basically. A position jump is basically jumping accurately between a small / narrow obstacle. A wall run is the running, just like you run towards a wall and you push up to the wall with a foot and then you reach the top. The climbing up is just to climb up an obstacle using both arms and leg. That one's pretty simple. A cat leap is to hang onto a wall with both arms and legs after jumping from another obstacle.
This is volcano boarding and I'll be presenting it. My name is Ellie Zong. Next slide, please. Volcano boarding is it can be either called volcano boarding or volcano surfing. It's strapping yourself to a wooden board and racing down an active volcano, which sounds really dangerous, but you have the ability to control your speed at all times, so it's generally safe. There has been no deaths with volcano boarding, and very few volcano accidents have occurred. You can like I said, control your speed at all times, so accidents only occur when people are trying to go as fast as possible. However, do keep in mind that Cerro Negro volcano is a volcano and it's closely mentioned, but you're taking a risk hiking on an active volcano, so sorry, my thing lagged. So if you decide to go volcano boarding, some equipment that you would require is a jumpsuit, goggles, gloves, hiking boots, or walking shoes, and 1 liter of water if you can, and a bandana or a t-shirt to wrap around your face in case there's any like ash, so and you can be protected from that. And guide would request you to leave your phone in the vehicle as it will likely get smashed on your way down, or you can bring your phone if you have a life-proof FRE case to protect your phone. Note, if however you're going on Nicaragua for your volcano boarding surfing trip, then that company will provide you with the first 3 items, but you'll have to bring the rest. And that's it.
Hi, I'll be doing highlighting. My name's Jerry. Next page, please. The swell of walking across a narrow line of synthetic webbing suspended between the 2 high points. It's called highlighting. Highlighting is also a form of slacklining, but have to be at least 50 feet up. The slacklining invented in the Yosemite Valley is still one of the highliners' favorite ways to highlight. Next page, please. So here is the equipment needed to highlight. It's typically the same as slacklining, as you can see in the 2 pictures here with some lines in a bag. Next page, please. So highliners mostly prefer to wear safety harnesses, sometimes even parachutes if below them there's a good place to land with a parachute and to have a safety net. They also prefer to have a safety net below, but it does not always protect them away from injuries and deaths.
I'll be presenting BMX. What is BMX? BMX is abbreviation for bicycle / bike motocross. BMX is a sport performed on BMX bikes, and these bikes are made specifically for off-road or stunt use. The sport originated around the 1970s when kids raced their bikes on dirt tracks to try to mimic the sport of motocross. And BMX has evolved into more than just dirt track racing. Next slide. The BMX events consist of BMX freestyle or BMX racing. Freestyle is an event which focuses on stunts like street BMX, where like riders make use of streets and urban areas to do their stunts, or park BMX, where riders attempt stunts in skate parks and such. BMX racing is a type of off-road bike racing derived from motocross, where racers race off-road dirt tracks with a wide variety of bumps, ramps, and turns.
I'm Sabrina. I'll talk about ice climbing today. Ice climbing is the activity of ascending inclined ice formations that started in the 19th century Europe. Usually, ice climbing refers to roped and protected climbing of features such as ice falls, frozen waterfalls, and cliffs and rock slabs covered with ice frozen from flows of water. Also, a climber chooses equipment according to the slope and texture of the ice. Usually, rope, ice axes, helmet, harness, ice climbing boots, and crampons are required for this sport. The International Climbing and Mountaineering Federation organizes an annual ice climbing World Cup and biennial ice climbing world championships. Climbers can compete in the categories of lead and speed. The most common types of injuries were abrasions, about 38%, contusions, about 36%, and joint sprains, about 7%. Falling ice was the main circumstance leading to injury. However, serious injuries are common. Falls on ice can result in serious and life-threatening injuries, with crampons on your feet and sharp pieces of ice and rock falling around you. Climbers have been known to break limbs and get deep lacerations.
Next slide. So what is blobbing? Blobbing has one participant sitting on one side of a giant airbag called a blog, and the blog is placed in the middle of a lake. And then another participant from a higher ledge jumps on the other side of the blog, and then the person already on the blog is launched upward and forward into the lake. And the heavier the jumper, the bigger the liftoff. Next slide, please. So blobbing is really popular at summer camps in North America, and various tricks such as front flips and back flips can be performed in the air. And there is also a yearly blobbing battle in Austria that works as a knockout. And then another fun fact is that the world record for the greatest height achieved by blobbing is 59 feet and 1 inch.
I did X-Pogo. So, X-Pogo, so X-Pogo is also known as Extreme Pogo. It is, as the name says, it is the extreme version of Pogo. X-Pogo is a pretty new sport as it was founded in 2010. It is an action sport that has tricks such as flips and jumps. The pogo sticks that are used in X-Pogo can jump over 3 meters in height, and this newly found sport was founded by 3 founders, Nick Ryan, Nick McClintock, and Fred Grzałbowski, I believe. So, yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole, and today I'll be explaining what motocross is. So motocross is a form of off-road motorcycle racing that's held on enclosed off-road circuits. So an off-road motorcycle is a special type of motorcycle. It's a type of dirt bike, and these are specially designed for use on unsurfaced roads or tracks. So in the pictures below, we see some unsurfaced roads, which are like sand, mud, or rocks. And the picture on the bottom left shows an enclosed off-road circuit. Next slide, please. So some history. Motocross originally evolved from the motorcycle trials competitions, and these were predominantly held in the United Kingdom. One form of the competition was specifically on rugged terrain, and this competition gained enough popularity to become its own separate sport, which is called motocross. The FIM, or the International Motorcycling Federation, set up the first annual Motocross World Championship in 1957, and in 1974, a subdiscipline called arena cross was formally established, and this was held in small indoor areas and was judged on jumping and aerial acrobatic skills. So unlike motocross, which is judged for speed, this is kind of judged for the elements of motorcycling. Next slide, please. There are 4 major competitions in motocross. The largest one is the FIM Motocross World Championship, and this is predominantly held in Europe. This year, there were 18 participating countries, and this competition is usually dominated by Belgium, France, and Italy. A picture on the right shows a picture from the World Championship this year. Another popular competition is the AMA Motocross Championship. This one is held in the United States. There's also Motocross State Nations, which is held after the National and World Championship Series, so in December. And this includes the top 3 riders from the National and World Championship Series representing their nations. And finally, there's the British Motocross Championship, which is held in Britain. Thank you.
I'll be presenting on sport diving. In sport diving, individuals or teams compete in different scuba diving techniques. Equipment used includes a diving mask, fins, and a snorkel, which are usually used in scuba diving. Sport diving takes place in a swimming pool 50 meters long and at least 2 meters deep. It was created in the 1990s in Zaragoza, Spain. The first competition was held in 2000, and in 2008, it became an official CMAS underwater sport. Sport diving includes individual and team events, which are all scored on time. Individual events include Event M 300 meters, where competitors race over 300 meters, night diving, where competitors find 3 items in darkness, and immersion 6 kilograms, where competitors compete to lift a 6 kilogram weight. There are also team events, which include obstacle course, where teams of 2 swim 100 meters in a course while completing different tasks, such as swimming through a hoop, which is shown in the picture here, and briefing, where teams of 4 race to gather information on the water.
I'm Gavin and I did water skiing. Water skiing is a surface water sport. In this sport, you are pulled by a boat or cable ski installation on a body of water while skimming the surface on skis. The equipment include a jet ski or boat to pull you by, water skis and ski binding, gloves, a wetsuit, a life vest, and a rope and handle. Water skiing was invented in 1992 by an American named Ralph Samuelson in Lake City, Minnesota. It was added as an Olympic sport in 1972. The average speed while water skiing is 25 miles per hour and the highest speed goes up to 135.74 miles per hour by Scott Michael Paladin. The record was made in Candler, Arizona, California in 1989.
Hi, I'm Juliana, and I'm going to be talking about skydiving. Skydiving, a sport very similar to parachuting, is a sport where you jump out of an airplane and fly through the air. Skydiving uses a parachute to slow down the skydiver's descent to the ground. And basically, when you jump out, the parachute limits you from just falling onto the ground. And a typical jump altitude for experienced divers range from 7,500 feet to 15,000 feet. A little bit of history behind skydiving. The sport began when a French aeronaut, André Jacques Garnerin, used a hot air balloon for this sport in 1797. He used a canvas canopy and a small basket tied beneath the hot air balloon, and the sport finally became a national sport in 1953.
You need to know
Parachuting?
I'm sorry.
What is parachuting? Very similar to skydiving, parachuting is an extreme sport where the athlete jumps off a plane or another high place. However, unlike skydiving, when parachuting, athletes will deploy the parachute right away. Some parachuting competitions are artistic competitions, classic art accuracy competitions, and canopy formation competitions. Artistic competitions include freestyle and free fly. Freestyle consisting of a performer and a videographer. Free fly teams consist of 2 performers and 1 videographer. Accuracy competitions is, as the name suggests, competitions where the competitors have to aim at a certain. Canopy formation competitions is when people open their parachutes right after jumping and try to create formations with each other. Formations consist of 2 or more people.
Hi, I'm going to be presenting shark cage diving. Cage diving is an extreme sport that allows a close-up experience with sharks, typically great white sharks, from inside a fully safe and indestructible metal cage under the ocean's surface. The purpose is to observe sharks more closely in their natural habitat, and the fact that it's just thrilling and fun. It's proven to be quite safe since the cage is very sturdy and the chances of the shark hurting you are very low. The only incidents ever recorded for this activity are not even shark related. Incidents such as seasickness, dehydration, and the tiny injuries from getting in and out of the cage or boat. The participants also have to be 12 years of age or older, and adult company is still required. They also need to pass.
Hello, my name is Ethan. I'll be presenting free solo climbing. So free solo climbing is just ice or rock climbing without equipment. So no rope, no harness, no helmet or elbow pads, knee pads, anything like that. And it's just done with the clothes on your back and some chalk, I guess. And it requires immense training and previous knowledge of the climb route. And it's extremely dangerous and it's only done by the most skilled climbers. And one notable instance of free soloing is Alex Honnold's free solo of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. It was 2,900 feet or 884 meters, and it took him 4 hours to complete. And the bottom left picture is El Capitan.
All right, so underwater hockey. Underwater hockey is also known as octopush in the UK or the United Kingdom. It's a limited contact sport in which two players compete to maneuver a puck in a swimming pool into the opponent's goalpost. It's like hockey, but underwater and with only two people. It originated in England in 1954 when Alan Blake invented it to keep his water sports club interested during the wintertime. So how it works is there's two goals on opposite sides of the pool. It's extreme as players will have to hold their breaths when they dive to the bottom to push the puck, and with that added thing, it can cause many injuries, and most of them would be hits to the body by other players' hockey sticks, which could break bones, cause concussions, bleeding, cuts, all that stuff.
Mountain boarding. Mountain boarding, also known as dirt boarding, off-road boarding, and all-terrain boarding, is a well-established little-known action sport derived from snowboarding. A mountain board is made up of components including a deck, bindings to secure the rider to the deck, four wheels with pneumatic tires, and two steering mechanisms, also known as trucks. Mountain boarders, also known as riders, ride specifically designed border cross tracks, sloped parks, grass hills, woodlands, gravel tracks, streets, skate parks, ski resorts, BMX courses, and mountain bike trails. It is this ability to ride such a variety of terrain that makes mountain boarding different from other board sports. Why is mountain boarding dangerous? Mountain boarders often attempt and land tricks that seem nearly impossible and downright dangerous. Mountain boarding is no exception, and riders of mountain boards often attempt tricks that many would cringe at. The tricks are made all the more dangerous because of the terrain below the border and because the rider is strained to the board, unable to free their legs in case of an emergency landing. The terrain below the mountain border is generally comprised of dirt, gravel, grass, or even some rocks. Although those that makes the track attempt to create a smooth and safe surface, the sport is usually rigged and dangerous.
I'm going to do paragliding. Paragliding is an extreme sport that requires aerodynamics to control. The sport usually has an instructor helping. The 5 ratings to get a license is student paragliding rating. How to acquire this is to begin with first ride in a paraglide with an instructor. With a successful ride, you will learn and demonstrate the basics of paragliding. Lastly, to acquire the student paragliding rating, you'll have to cooperate with the instructor while demonstrating how to paraglide. Beginner paragliding rating, the first step of getting a beginner paragliding rating is to go into basic ground school and pass on an exam. Then you'll have to demonstrate basic skills of the canopy. A canopy is a regular glider wing. And launch and fly independently with the instructor near you. Lastly, you'll acquire the beginner paragliding rating. Next slide, please. The novice paragliding rating, you have to attend minimum of 8 hours of ground school and theory courses, show a row of at least 25 flights, demonstrate master 26 skills, and lastly, obtain the novice paragliding rating by not flying base winds that exceed 12 miles per hour, when peak gusts reach 15 miles per hour, and when wind hits 5 miles per hour in 5 seconds. Intermediate paragliding rating you get by meeting the log requirements at flying at least 30 logged flying days, 40 flights, and at least 20 hours of solo airtime. Then demonstrate the mastering paragliding theories and skills. Then you receive your intermediate paragliding rating. Lastly, you get the advanced paragliding rating by meeting another log requirements of 250 flights, 5 intermediate flights at 5 distinct sites, 80 logged flying days, at least 3 intermediate level 1 hour flights, at least 1 intermediate level 1 hour flight, and at least 75 hours of airtime. Fly at least 5 different canopies, demonstrate advanced skills, execute a flight plan or a perfect flight, and lastly, receive your last rating.
Hi, my name is Eric Yang, and I'm going to be talking about hang gliding. So first of all, what is hang gliding? Well, hang gliding, it happens thousands of feet up in the air, and pilots use hang gliders that are made using special nylon and an aluminum frame to do so. And these pilots are suspended using straps on the glider, which is why it's called a hang glider, and the sport is called hang gliding. And the pilots are required to shift their weight to control both the direction they go in as well as how fast they go. And it's been stated by many pilots that they feel that they've been transformed into a bird while they're hang gliding. Next slide, please. So here's some dangers about hang gliding. Well, first of all, it's recommended to seek advice from professionals or experienced pilots who've hang glided before. It's required that you have good equipment that isn't faulty, or else something could go wrong and it could be really dangerous as you're really high up in the air. And there's even some professional schools to train in and practice in a controlled environment. And hang gliding can also be really dangerous because it's unpredictable because of various weather conditions. And there aren't really that many physical limitations. Almost anyone can do hang gliding. You just need a lot of experience to get really good at it.
Hello, my name is Jason Lam, and I'm going to be presenting bungee jumping. So, bungee jumping, what is it? Bungee jumping, also known as, well, bungee jumping, is an activity that involves a person jumping from great heights with a connected cable to usually their waist or their feet. And in this sort of action, they will usually jump from these heights and they would jump off of a launching pad. This pad is usually erected onto high places. So for example, cranes, tall buildings, maybe even sometimes cliffs and even just the edges of large ravines. It is usually, these launching pads are usually where they will jump from and where they will usually be pulled back up to. So for example, if you were to go bungee jumping, you would usually jump off the side of a large cliff. So here's your large cliff. You usually jump off of the side of your large cliff and you go falling all the way down. And what would end up happening is that the elastic cable, which is connected to you, will pull you back up. And because of like the elastic tension of which is within the cable and the amount of energy that's within that cable, it will then pull you, it'll go down and then it will pull you back up because of the elasticity. And usually after a certain amount of time, since energy is being dispersed every single time you go up and down and bounce around on the bungee jump, it will eventually, you will come to a standstill. In that case, that is when the launch pad will then have to reel you back in. It is also possible to jump from aircraft for bungee jumping. And also, and also there are also other such places. So for example, hot air balloons and helicopters, they have to be able to, be able to be still in the air, because for those sort of aircraft, if you're jumping out of an aircraft, what might happen if you're jumping out of an aircraft is that when you jump out of the aircraft, the cable is still going to be attached to your feet. So the helicopter or the hot air balloon is going to have to stay very still and not move around that much, because if it starts moving around, then the cable of which you're attached on to might move around with it, which might cause some very, very problematic situations. Because if, for example, the helicopter starts flying away, what might end up happening is that you might get pulled along with it, which is a nightmare in itself. And what really drives people to take on bungee jumping is mainly the thrill of the sport, because when you go bungee jumping, what you're basically doing is that you are literally jumping off of a height and free falling down into what would normally be certain death. However, because of your elastic cable, you are able to avoid certain death and able to rebound back up to where you jumped off of. And the cord of which the jumper usually uses will usually fly upward, and as the cord then again recoils, it will then continues to oscillate up and down until all the kinetic energy is dissipated, as I've already mentioned. Oh, okay. Bungee jumping, so I'm just going to continue. I'm sorry for those Nepal students which might have had some internet connection issues. I'm sorry for those who had internet connection issues. I'm very sorry for that. Bungee jumping may be, bungee jumping is actually prone to injuries, and these injuries can be divided into occurring after the jump, secondary to the jump, equipment mishap, or even tragic accidents. So, and these can occur regardless of any safety measures and other such things of which the jumpers might take. So for example, injury can happen if, let's say, this safety harness fails. So if the safety harness fails, what might happen is that that maybe even the cord length is miscalculated, meaning that the amount of cord of which you have is longer than what it takes to hit the ground. So in that case, you would hit the ground before your cord is able to pull you back up. There are also cases where the safety harness might fail and you might slip out of the harness. During 1986, there was actually a man who died during rehearsals for a stunt on BBC television because the cord sprang loose from the carabiner clip. So basically the carabiner clip is basically the clip of which is used to hold the cable tight. And what ended up happening was that some of the slack of the cable was let loose, and because the clip failed, the slack was let loose, and basically the cord just basically let loose and he fell to the ground. I know, very dark, but yes, it's very, very sad as well. Injuries that could occur despite safety measures generally relate to the abrupt rise of intravascular pressure during a bungee cord recoil. So what that basically means is that when you do bungee jumping, usually you will jump off of a high place, and when you go down, usually the cord pulls you back up. However, because the cord, when the cord pulls you back up in bungee jumping, what ends up happening is that the body, your body's blood, which was used to be in free fall, now it has a couple of G's. Your body now has G's put on top of it. So in this case, if you're facing downwards, the blood might be forced upwards to your head, upwards to your arms, upwards to your upper body, basically. And what ends up happening is that that's where there's a lot of blood pressure of which happens. And that's why a lot of people complain about eye injury, like their eyes being painful. That's because when they do that, the amount of blood of which is now circulating in their eyes is a lot more than what is usual. because normally gravity in our body is usually in tandem, and the body is able to basically get the right amount of blood to the right amount of places under the normal conditions of gravity and in free fall. However, when there's a high pressure pushing all of the blood towards the uppermost part of the body, that is what happens, and there's most commonly eye damage. Also, the impaired eyesight and secondary to retina hemorrhage may be transient or take several weeks to resolve. So basically these sort of eye injuries might take weeks to resolve, and it could take some time. And of course, when you're bungee jumping, whiplash injuries may occur if the bungee cord is jolted, and in at least one case, there have been multiple occurrences of bungee jumping and a whiplash occurring with the jumper. Very serious injury can occur if the jumper's neck or body gets entangled with the cord. What this basically means that if you get entangled in the cord, when the cord pulls tight, it can possibly basically wrap around you, and it could possibly constrict you, which is not good for any of your body parts of which might be constricted. That's because it could cut off blood flow, it can hurt, and many other things. Thank you for coming to my presentation about bungee jumping.
Reset the slides.
Oh yeah, Michelle, could you please reset the slide? Thank you. All right.
All right. Hi, my name is Joshua Wei, and I'll be presenting pole diving. And pole diving is a sport of jumping or falling into the water from a platform or springboard, usually using performing acrobatics. And performing acrobatics are spectacular gymnastic feats, and some examples are front flips, back flips, turning, and twisting. And this can be done by yourself or with a partner. And pole diving originated in Europe in the early 19th century and later on became an Olympic sport in 1904. And a couple of famous Olympic divers are Wu Menxia, Guo Jingjing, and Fu Mingxia. And if you look at the bottom of the slide, the left picture is a picture of a springboard, and the right picture is of two people diving into the water.
Downhill skateboarding. What is downhill skateboarding? Downhill skateboarding is a non-competitive style of skating where skateboarders ride a longboard down a steep hill at high speeds. The goal of downhill skateboarding is to reach the fastest speed possible while maintaining complete control of your board. Essentials for downhill skateboarding. The right board. Many downhill skaters prefer longboards, which have broader and longer decks than regular skateboards, making them easier to maneuver. You also need a dependable helmet to protect your head from injuries when you fall. And you also need durable gloves to protect your hands from the pavement while traveling downhill at high velocity, and knee and elbow pads to reduce severity of cuts, scrapes, bruises, and burns when you fall.
Hello, I'm Jerry. I'm presenting the downhill mountain biking. You flip the slide. Okay, downhill biking is a sport that ride down extreme terrain as fast as possible. Downhill bikers ride with the downhill bike, which is a type of bike that has large suspension travel and that provides the safety and maneuverability to ride on extreme terrains. Okay. So the first World Cup downhill took place in 1993, but since then the game was transformed a lot. This is the wish of all downhill riders, whether they are professionals or amateurs, to participate in the World Cup. During the few years that it has been in existence, it creates many legends and many records that also have been set. Some of the famous names from World Cup are Nico of who won the first race, and Jürgen Bannick, who won the series in the same World Cup. Okay, thank you.
I think we did my